Hi there, everybody. Looks like we have 15 people on Zoom. And welcome, John Bordeaux, I see you, Wendy Starr from Big Plaza. I know Richard Harris should be, CCNA president, should be on somewhere along the line. But welcome, everybody, on another hot day. Speaking of that, I have a gift for our DSCA board. We have a tradition of having wine and food after, so we've got some voodoo hot potato chips, which go along with our meal, and jalapeno cashews to go along with the hot weather, and Bob, some hot sauce for us. Okay, so anybody who would like to, yeah, I did.
Oh.
This is a gift to the group, the voodoo hot, if it hasn't been hot enough weather. Thanks, everybody. Looks like we have a really nice group. One thing I may ask, please, those of you on Zoom, if you're not going to be speaking, mute your mic so we don't pick up any inadvertent background noise. Welcome to our regularly scheduled July meeting. I see we have a quorum. I know Jamie is enjoying Cartagena, if I'm not mistaken, but I know that we have a quorum established. And who else may not be with us? I think
Ken's not here.
Ken. Okay, but we have the rest of it.
So 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. So welcome, everybody. First order of business is the approval of the minutes, and we circulated those the other day. Were there any comments, additions?
Motion to approve?
Motion to, okay, motion to approve from Bob and second by Kathy Sellers. All of those in favor?
Aye.
And thanks to Judy and Patrick again for your incredible help in getting those so complete and accurate and comprehensive. So we appreciate it. The next order of business, Clark, tell us about our money.
Okay, we have $7,422.50 in our checking account.
Okay.
And we have that included the $200 membership fee from The View.
Okay. Well, good.
That's a recent.
And we, in a few minutes, we'll be recognizing some additional associate members.
So Clark, on the funds, the payments, we talked about Ronald Apricot, 282 or?
We spent, we paid $1,500 out of our $3,400 bill for Wild Africa, for $3,200.
So we renewed for 2 years, but we're putting it on the
We
card.
renewed it, yeah.
Okay.
But put it on the credit card, just to
So does it look like we can pay it off now, or do you want to
balance
wait another month?
the cash flow. Well, yeah, we could pay it off next month, probably.
Okay.
So
All
we'll see.
right. Okay. Any other discussion about the money for the moment? And then on to new business. I am really pleased to have Lucia Panica, our guest. Lucia, you were with us 2 years ago this month, time of your promotion, as I recall, and maybe we'll make this maybe more often than every 2 years. But we're thrilled to have you with us. Those of you, I won't say much about Lucia because she's a known quantity, or Director of Development Services, a big job, and she's brought with her a PowerPoint presentation to talk about our department, and then also welcoming Myra Schwarz. And Myra is the general manager, and I think Lucia may say a little bit more. Looking at Myra's background with significant experience at City of Bradenton and GIS and some other things that are just absolutely relevant to, I think, the work that some of which Lucia is going to talk about. So let me turn it over to you, Lucia. And you know, it's a fisheye here and with our audience. So if you want to.
I think it's best if you could sit over on this side.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable doing.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I did bring, I think, 12 copies of the PowerPoint presentation. If anyone wants a hard copy, pass this around there. So thank you again for having me here. Like David said, it's been 2 years exactly since I've been here. So it's nice to see familiar faces and to see new faces as well. And like David said, Myra is here as well. Last time I was here, the general manager was Kevin McAndrew, and he also came and introduced himself. So we wanted to take this opportunity to have Myra come and introduce herself and say a couple of things about herself and her background. So we'll go ahead and start with that.
Okay.
Come in,
Over here.
come over here first.
Okay, thank you. Okay. My name's Myra Schwarz. I come to you work-wise from the city of Bradenton, where I worked for 7 years, progressively from doing GIS planning to being the general manager. There, it was a combined development services and planning together, second to the director, as I am here. So it was kind of a lateral move to a larger staff here. Prior to that, I did a number of things. I graduated from USF with a degree in geography with my major as environmental justice and minor in geology. So I was in physical sciences and environmental issues. And from there, I worked for the city of Gulfport for 6 years in 2 different stints as planner, which was interesting as another waterfront town, but smaller with 13,000 people. And a different demographic and different needs. And then from there, I worked for U.S. Geological Survey, doing some bathymetric research, wrote a paper or 2, went to some environmental contract work, working on well work and well analysis. And then I went to Schrader Manatee Ranch, which of course is the developer of Lakewood Ranch, and did planning and GIS for them. And then I went to Bradenton, and that is where I come to here, to serve you all in Sarasota.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. And I'll be talking a little bit about who she's over and kind of what she does day to day. But we're extremely excited to have her on board, and she brings a lot of value to our department in our city. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start my presentation. The first slide, I'm not sure who's working the.
I am.
Okay. Thanks, Cedric. Okay, so this is kind of an outline of what I'll be talking about, some points of interest, I think, for this group. First, I'll kind of do an overview of the Department, Development Services. Then I'll highlight some recent changes that have occurred. Then I will talk a little bit about the Development Review Committee. I'm sure everyone's heard of the DRC. And give some points about that. Then I'll talk about staging plans. There's so much construction going on. I'll kind of talk a little bit about that, code compliance, and then an update on our one-stop shop building. When I was here 2 years ago, the one-stop shop, I think, was still in the planning stages. I think we had the site picked out, but now it's under construction. So it's very exciting. Okay, let's see.
There we go.
Thank you. So Development Services, the Development Services Department is located at the City Hall Annex Building. We occupy the 2nd floor and the majority of the 3rd floor. There's approximately 66 employees, and we have 7 divisions, including code compliance, local business tax, development review, zoning, tree protection, building and permitting, and facilities. The next slide is part of our table of organization. The next few slides are parts of our table. The boxes highlighted in yellow have additional employees under them. So you can see Larry is our building official. He's over our building and permitting divisions. And then Myra is over the rest of the department. So code compliance, local business tax, vacation rentals, zoning, development review, and excuse me, Larry's also over facilities. So you'll see that in the next slide. So there's Larry's, the next two slides are Larry's table of organization. So he is over, like I said, building, permitting, and facilities. And then each division has their own manager as well. And then Myra is over code compliance, tree protection, zoning, development review, vacation rentals, foreclosures. So I highlighted 3 recent changes that have occurred within our department. The first one is we created an interactive map for development applications that are pending. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that later on and also showing you how to access that. I think it's a great tool to use to see what kind of development's going on and to get more information about that. The next one is ongoing, but we've worked on some enhancements to public engagement within development applications. And I will talk a little bit about that further on in my presentation, but it's an ongoing effort with CCNA specifically to try to engage the public more in the process of our development applications, especially administrative review. And then the third change is some technology initiatives that we're working on. 3D modeling is one that I will talk about later, and then electronic development application submittals. So we currently accept applications electronically for building permits, but not yet for development applications. So that's something that we're working on that we hope to launch within the next year. So I think we're a little ahead. Yes, perfect. So the Development Review Committee, or or commonly referred to as the DRC, is regulated by Article 3, Division 6 of the Zoning Code. It consists of city staff from numerous departments that review any kind of application or project. It also includes a representative from the school board and the Sarasota County Fire Department. This is a technical review that these members do against their applicable codes and regulations. So for example, the development review planner will review it against the zoning code, future land use code, or future land use plan, the codes that they are responsible for. Projects discussed at the DRC meetings, and which occur the first and third Wednesday of each month. The case planner, which is the planner staff member under Development Services Department, is the main contact person regarding these development applications that go before, most of them that go before the DRC. And I wanted to note this because I think there was some confusion about who the public should contact if they have any questions or want to give input, and this would be your person. So the case planner is the contact person for everyone, the applicants, other city staff, and the public. So once an application is deemed complete, the case planner will email the designated neighborhood representative introducing themselves and notifying them of the project. And they will also email them the comment memos once they're generated. And I wanted to highlight that because that's something new that we started doing before, and we still currently do notifications via mail to property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. A lot of times the letters don't get reviewed, or it's an owner that lives at state, and so the local people here that actually live here don't get notified. So we extended more personal email to the neighborhood representative, hoping that they will get the word out themselves, and so they know who to contact if they have any questions.
Has that begun?
That's begun.
That's in place.
Yes.
You received?
I've started to get them, seems in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not recalling, recently.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, very recently. That's something new that we did as part of our enhancements of public input. And the DRC meetings also want to highlight are open to the public, but there isn't an opportunity for public input. Input can be submitted to the case planner either via in writing, mail or email or phone call. We accept and really appreciate the input that we get on projects. So next slide.
Can I ask you really quick, who is the case planner that we're being referred to right now?
Right, so we have 3 different planners. That could be a case planner, depends on the project.
Okay, all right,
And later on, I'll show you how you can look to see who the case planner is.
thank you.
Okay, so to get, these next couple slides are how you can find more information on pending development applications. So if you go to the city's website, under government on the previous page that I show here, if you click on government on the left-hand side, and then if you click on development services department, you can click on development review and that will bring you to this page. In the PowerPoint, there's a direct link to it. But where I circled in red, there's 2 different links there that will bring you to different pages where you can get information on development applications. So the first one, I'm going to show you, if you click on the first one, the next slide shows you what that looks like. So that's more on the left-hand side there, but it's a report, a status report that is published monthly. And that gives you information on the project description, case planner, contact information, and the history and status of the application. So that one is, like I said, on our website on that previous link that I showed, and it's updated monthly. The next link is the interactive map that I mentioned earlier. So this is a screenshot of what the map looks like. If you scroll a little bit to the right, if you click on those little dots are pending projects. So if you click on a project, this window comes up with a project description, the contact information, and that's the case planner with their email address, the location, the project name, and the status of it. So this is a great tool, in my opinion, to look more in real time what's going on, and this is updated weekly. So the next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about staging plans, since there's so much construction going on. Just wanted to give a little bit of information about staging plans and how to find some relevant information. Staging plans are required for new commercial buildings, major renovations, and single-family homes over 5,000 square feet. The emphasis is on maintaining all operations within the approved site boundaries, minimizing impact on neighboring properties, and attention to erosion control, safety, right-of-way preservation, traffic mitigation, and parking regulations. So all of those items are reviewed during the staging plan process. The staging plan has to be approved and issued with the construction permit. So you can't get the construction permit without a staging plan. I know that sidewalk and road closures are something that are of interest to a lot of people. So there's an interactive GIS map. If you go on our main website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see these 6 buttons here. If you click on the middle or the one highlighted in red, our GIS maps, that's gonna, the next slide will show you. These are all of the maps that we have. The one that's highlighted in red are the closures and detours that we have. So the next slide will show you what that looks like. So this is a screenshot of that map. The yellow, kind of the yellow bigger areas are pending projects under construction. And then there's a table on the right top corner that shows, that's a legend basically of what everything means. So there's the red, I think, is sidewalk closure. The light blue by Miramar Court is an alley closure. So you can see what streets and sidewalks are being closed and kind of what the transportation management plan is. And if you also click on the actual projects, it also brings you a description of the project. So that's another way to look at some pending projects. So if you're ever curious about, street closures, sidewalk closures, I think this is a great tool to use.
Do you have extra copies of this handout?
Yeah, I think there's another one. So there's another way to look at staging plans, if you want to see more of the kind of details, I guess, or even the status of one. If you go to our, kind of similar to where we were before, under Development Services, Building and Permitting, there is a direct link there highlighted in red to look up building permits and staging plans by different criteria. So the next slide will show you what that looks like once you click on that link. You can search by address, parcel ID, a lot of different ways. If you know the permit number, you can do it that way. And that's gonna bring you all the history of the permits on the site. So that's another good tool, I think, to look at permits and see what's going on there.
So Lucia, how does one actually get the staging plan document? This gives you transmittal information and dates and who approved what, but there does not appear to be a link to the actual staging plan with the map and all the phased, what is going to be done when. Where does that document reside that the public can have access to?
So you would have to call our department. We don't have anywhere out in the public yet. As far as like development applications, you can go somewhere and get those. We don't have those published anywhere accessible. You would have to call our department and we can email it to you.
But when a staging plan entry is made into the GIS system, why can't the staging plan PDF document be put somewhere on Granicus or something and then linked to it? Here's a link to that specific document, should you want to actually look and see what the applicant was asking for, and where he said he was going to put his parking, and where he was going to have the rest of his workers park, and what he was going to do. Because oftentimes what the builder says they plan to do in the staging plan isn't what happens on the ground.
Yeah, we do have that occur. So Public Works takes the staging plan and they look at the road closure and they put the road closures on the GIS. They don't put the staging plan in GIS. I'll have to look into if someone submits it electronically through e-plans, if that can be accessible to the public. That's something I can look at.
Don't they submit an applicant, MOT application?
They do, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll have to see where that can be housed to make it accessible. That's something we can look at. I'll make a note of that. Okay, so I think the next topic is code compliance. Code compliance remains about 80% proactive and 20% reactive, meaning the complaints that they get takes about 20% of their time, 80% of their time they are actually out there. I don't want to say looking for violations because that sounds bad, but just making sure everything is in compliance. Wanted to talk a little bit about the City of Sarasota Click to Fix app that we have. The app is used to report problems such as potholes, broken sidewalks, tree limbs, parking meters, kind of anything that you see out in the public that is wrong. It's owned and managed by the IT department, but the submissions are responded to by numerous city departments, public works, parks and rec, utilities, et cetera. There's improvements to the workflows that are continuously occurring, but we are kind of limited to what the app can do in the different categories that the app has. This is kind of considered a temporary solution. The IT department is looking for something a little bit more permanent that can do more of what we need in fiscal year 25-26. So hopefully, we'll be able to do a lot more in the coming future. Code compliance requests can't be submitted through Click to Fix, and that's mainly because we can't accept anonymous complaints. We have to have contact information, and Click to Fix doesn't have that capability. So if you do go to Click to Fix and want something that's code compliance related, it would just bring you to our online portal. So there is a direct link to it. It's just a different platform.
So Lucy, you're saying that the Click to Fix could not add your name and address fields to make it non-anonymous?
Correct.
As an option, you can't add that?
No, there's an issue with making that a requirement as well. We tried to look at that, but it just can't, it's very limited. So the next thing I want to talk about is 3D modeling. So currently, the city is looking at the feasibility of 3D modeling. 3D modeling can help visualize the impact of proposed zoning text amendments, development applications, streetscape projects, etc. The initiative has been a multi-department effort with the planning department taking the lead so far. There's 3 phases that are envisioned with this project. The first phase is collecting the citywide data, which is the majority of the project. And then the next phase would be creating a 3D model based on that data that's been collected. And then phase 3 would be to plug in new projects. So once we get, the idea is once we have this formalized, when we have development applications, new projects that come in, we can ask them for a file that we can simply plug into this 3D model, and we can further analyze the impacts to the area. So I think it's going to be a really good tool during our review. The request for proposal, so RFP for the phase 1 portion of this project is proposed to be submitted around September of 2023 with a hope of entering into a contract December of 2023. So we're very excited about this. I know David was a big influence on getting this done. So we're very excited about this. And then my last update is on the one-stop shop, which is our new building. We're calling it the one-stop shop because the idea is that anything to do with development, code compliance, local business tax, things in that realm. The idea is that people can go just to one place and get everything taken care of. So that's what we call it, a one-stop shop right now. It's being currently under construction. It's being built on the north side of 2nd Street, opposite of City Hall. So it's very exciting to have that built. We're going to have all of Development Services Department in there, utility billing as well, Public Works Engineering, a utility engineer, and then the majority of the planning department. Willis Smith is a construction contractor, and the completion date is approximately summer of 2024. We're pretty much on that schedule now, I think. And so my next slide is some contact information. If anyone needs to get in contact with any of our divisions. And then the last slide is my personal, or my city contact information. If anyone needs to get in touch with me. That's all I have to share.
Well, thank you, Lucia. Thank you for that. And just for those of you, the presentation will be at our website and disseminated electronically. So we've got a few extra hard copies here. As is customary, we'll open it up to questions now. And the protocol is, I'm sure there are going to be a lot, is our board members first, and then some selected questions from our members rep. So let's start with members of the board. If you have questions, comments for Lucia. I've got one, if I can be so bold. You know that I track things pretty closely. Yes, I do. And what I find is I can see things through the DRC process. And then I can see sometimes when building permits, but there seems to be a never time where it's passed through the DRC, but it's being considered, and it just seems to disappear off the radar screen. So it's not known if the project's gone away, the developers, put it on ice or whatever. Can you help me with the process of seeing projects that are live, shall we say, or semi-live before they get to a building permit?
So would this be after they get DRC sign-off or
Yes.
full approval?
Yep, or partial sign-off.
Okay, because I am thinking about a process for partial sign-off for when it gets out of the DRC, I guess, formal, process. how to keep track of that for the public, so the public can see what has partial sign off and tracking that. But unfortunately, once a project gets approved, sometimes we don't even know what's going on with it after, in that time between getting it approved and going to building permit. A lot of times they are trying to sell it off to someone else, or they're working on construction plans, or they just died and never comes back. So a lot of times we don't know either.
Well, we can talk about this offline, but there could be an opportunity, because some of the stuff I'm kind of guessing on this, or it's had a site plan approved for 3 years, and then there's nothing, it's just no visibility. So, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times we have the same questions too. It's been something that's approved and then we just never hear back and it expires and that's it.
Okay. Others?
David, I have a question.
Let's finish with the board first, okay?
Oh, okay. I didn't think anybody else was asking.
Well, I'll go by allocation, but first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. And yes, significant improvements leading to public access. And as you know, we've been working with CCNA on how to improve meaningful neighborhood input. And I think having the case planner assigned, but having access to the source documents is the way for the public to read exactly what is being said, not what's in the newspaper or something else, and then form the questions and form their input meaningfully. So having access to that linked from things. So for instance, when we get a notice for a community workshop, used to be we got an email to us and they would have a link to the documents that would be appropriate for that background. That's not there today. So how can we get more of that, specifically around community workshops? The changes that were made last year seems to reduce the public access, primarily because the formal city official notices are sent from individual consultants and commercial companies that many of us, when we go through our mail in the mailroom, we pull out mail that's addressed to us from people we know, but people don't know who Joel Friedman is. They don't know, say, all the different engineering and plumbing companies that are out there that might be sending these official city notices. So is there any way to, if you want to delegate that mailing process, to require that they put on there City of Sarasota Community Workshop Notice on the envelope, under their address or something that would notify the public that this is an official notice, because A, they're not getting notified. And second, when those get sent out, to have the clerk do what they do for all the other notices, is to email those out to the list of people. They have email notices. And that comes from the city. That way it's an email from the city as opposed to an email from XYZ consultant, which may not get through your filters. So those steps would, I think, help improve the ability for the public to actually ahead of time get access to the documents and therefore come to the table to provide the meaningful neighborhood input that your case planners and the developer would want to have in that process.
Okay. Any other board comments? I have one before we go to Fran. Community workshops for projects that will have a bonus density requested. The planning board recommended that be added to the ZTAs. In my understanding from conversations with Steve and Marlon, that seems to be on track. Am I hearing correctly? Because I think that's where Richard Harris and I and a couple of us wanted to get together to see if we could work on a good process and engagement that's sensitive to timing, sensitive to hassle, when in the process is not too early, not too late. So as far as you were kind of saying, the city is kind of committed to that path of having those workshops as we move ahead.
Yes, yeah, so those zoning text amendments are going to be presented to the city commission with a planning board recommendation. And that was one, like you said, one of the planning board recommendations. And they recommended having the workshop for DRC sign off. So you could have it anytime between that review, which could vary.
And I think the thing we'd like to offline talk to you about is when is the sweet spot for that, when it's not the cake is all baked versus, it's just, there could be some input that could be helpful a month out or whatever from DRC or something. But we can get together with you in the coming weeks to do that. Okay. Any other board questions? If not, I think Fran Lambert, you had a question, ma'am?
Yes, I do. First of all, Lucia, I just want to tell you that I'm thrilled that you have an enhancing public engagement on your list, because I think the fact that we come to meetings and can't say anything, at all, seems to me to be a problem, and I'm thrilled that you're addressing that. My question to you is, do you know when you will have a decision on the 1260 Palm Avenue project?
Figured that was gonna come up. So right now, I'll kind of tell you the status because I'm not really sure. A lot of it is in their hands with addressing comments. So right now, the main thing are the 3 adjustments that they are proposing. One adjustment is going to require, unless they do a redesign, it's going to require a planning board public hearing. So we're still waiting to get that application submitted. The other 2 adjustments, we're waiting for some information to be clarified. So the thought is kind of, you can't make a decision on a site plan when there's some items that are not consistent with the zoning code as far as, what they need an adjustment for. So the idea is to get those adjustments, a decision on those adjustments first, and then to be able to make a decision on the site plan. So like I said, one of the adjustments requires a planning board hearing. So, I think that's going to have to occur before a decision is made on the actual site plan.
And which one is that?
The adjustment on the retail requirement.
Okay,
All right.
all right. Thank you very much for your answer.
And other member reps in the room, and Jim Lample from Jewel.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. To follow up on Fran's question on 1260, how many times would a developer get turned down to make revisions before the DRC said, that's it, go away? Because it seems to the residents downtown that your department is working with developers to get to yes, instead of saying, sorry, you don't meet the criteria, go away and start all over. I think they've been there 3 or 4 times already. So what is the limit?
That's a good question. So there isn't a limit. We don't have it, codified. 3 and 4 times for a project of this size isn't unusual. It usually does take that many times to address all the comments. We get to a point, possibly if someone wants to say, no, I don't want to address that comment anymore, then we say, okay, thank you. I'll make my decision on this now. We have, a final project per se. So we don't have a limit. We do have one item that can kind of limit that process would be the time limitation that we have per Florida statute. We have 180 days or 160 or 20 days, 120 days for administrative review to make a decision. You can enter into extensions if both parties agree. So if we've come to a point where we just, for whatever reason, don't want to enter into an extension, then we can choose not to and then make our decision that way.
Where are we on 1260? How many days?
We are in an extension. I'm not sure when it's up though. Do you know?
Can't remember offhand when it's up.
It seems to me,
August 15th.
it seems to me, I've been around for a while, that permits keep getting extended on an item. David can witness this too. The city works so diligently to get the developer to yes, and that's part of the frustration downtown.
Okay, well, I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Any other member representatives? If not, on 3D modeling, if I can come back, that I think it's such an opportunity, and we track the literally thousands of dwelling units coming before us and the controversy in the North Trail and everything. is it recognized in the city that it's a priority, that substantial money is being put behind? I'm getting the impression that it's a 3-year deal. What is your approximate, I know it's the data gathering, and then this, what kind of broad timeline are you thinking about?
That's a good question. So we hope to have the first phase done by December of 2023. And that should take kind of the longest time, gathering all that information, because then the setting up the 3D model is going to be limited to certain areas. So if I were to guess, and we haven't talked about this, so don't quote me on this, but if I were to guess, possibly maybe 1.5 years, hopefully, to be able to use it. I don't know if the planning department or IT or public works put in money this coming fiscal year in the budget for it. I know that they have some money now. So I assume that they have some money, you know, for the next fiscal budget. So it is a priority. I know it's one of Marlon's priorities as well.
Yeah, I just think so many of our conversations about projects could be a picture being worth 1,000 words. The best money potentially we ever spend. Okay. Anybody else? Otherwise, Lucia, thank you for coming, and we look forward to working with you on these community workshops and the meaningful community input. Myra, nice to meet you, and thank you.
David, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
I'm sorry. I had one quick question for Lucia. Lucia, the public input is permitted at the planning board meetings, and it's permitted at the city commission meetings. Why isn't public input permitted at the DRC meetings?
The DRC is more, it's a technical review. So it's not really an approving body. We don't fall under the sunshine. So it's more of a technical review. We do, during that process though, we do encourage and accept input to the case planner, which is, you know, the most important thing. But each DRC reviewer is reviewing only on their codes that they have to apply. So it's not really, you know, it's a technical review.
It's more black and white.
It's more black and white, exactly.
I just think that public input at the DRC meetings would be that many people would support that.
John? Okay, we
That's all.
get you. Okay, all right. And, okay. All right, well, thank you, Lucia.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay,
having
appreciate
me.
you coming. Thank you, Myra. Okay. All right. You can stick around for the hot potato chips if you like. Otherwise, okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Moving along, our next item of business is to review and approve our new associate members. And the firm of Ball Janik, do we have Ball Janik? No? And then the Crew Bank and Trust. Okay, and yeah, and I think our way we do this normally is vote to accept these as new members and then ask for a minute or so of introduction. So is there a motion to accept these new associate members? We're always pleased to have new gold members, and we appreciate their support. So Bob, you've made a motion to accept these new members, and Clark this time can second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Sir, may I ask you to come up and introduce your firm and come on over?
But do it. How you all doing?
Hey, good.
Good. My name is Eric Martakis. I'm with Cruz Bank and Trust. We're right down here on the corner of Palm and Main. We've been around since 1929. We're a family-owned bank. We started in Wauchula, and we're over in this area as well. We have 19 locations, and we're in 7 counties. We're a full-service bank. We do trust. We do commercial lending. We do residential lending, personal banking, business banking. So we do a lot. I'm actually a residential lender. So that's a little bit about us. 4th generation running the company. Jake Cruz, his grandfather, which is Bill Cruz. His dad founded the company. And Bill still works for the company. He works every day still. He doesn't want to retire. He's like 88 years old. And he's still working harder than some of us every day. And it's a great thing to work for family business. So if you never heard of us, come check us out.
Great.
Very
Well,
nice.
welcome.
Where's the headquarters?
Well, I guess we can say Wauchula.
Oh.
And we own Inglewood Bank, we own Charlotte State Bank, and we own Wauchula State Bank, and we're Cruz Bank. And this fall, we're all going under one name under Cruz Bank and Trust, the Cruz family. Happy to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome. Moving on, the next item is under old business, an update on our community association survey. So Bob, what have you got for us?
I think Patrick could help a little bit with the numbers, but I think basically we have 14 completed surveys back. Sheila Connell, who is now working from home for the next week, at least for the next week, I'll be talking to her on Monday, and we'll have an update on that then. But we're getting, as we do every year, because turnover at various associations, we're upgrading the contact numbers and getting the survey to the right person. So Patrick does yeoman's work regarding getting copies of the survey to Sheila, and then I think Sheila can forward them on to the various clients.
Yeah, well, Patrick, a word, you want to give a word or two the importance of this and
Sure.
you know,
Because we're already turning up some very valuable data, and this data will be available to those condominiums who submit your report. So those 23 condos members who have yet to submit your reports, you want this data. We are already showing an average 2-year increase in the maintenance fee per unit. So what each of us pays per unit. We're able to look at what they paid 2 years ago in our survey and what they're paying now. And we're seeing increases close to 100% in some cases. Just on the insurance question of just 1 year increase, we're seeing average 50%. And there's a wide range. So if you want to be able to do a comparison and look at your condo based upon those who have a certain age or a certain size, that's the kind of data that we'll have that you can slice and dice and be able to kind of see where you're progressing and how that's comparing. But we've got to have everybody participate. We had a great turnout 2 years ago, so there's some valuable information coming.
Is it per unit or per square foot?
That was the calculation of the per unit. The per square foot has gone up significantly too, and that's the same dollar amount.
I just wonder if that, was that going to be in the results?
Yes. Thanks.
Patrick, do you need help contacting those individual condo owners that have not yet replied?
Sure.
I mean, because that's some doubts about.
Bob is working with Sheila and anyone else who's willing to make contacts, yes.
yeah, so we don't want to trip over each other, but if you need help,
Exactly.
then
What we'll be looking at, when I talk to Sheila, okay, who haven't we got a contact of the list that we have? And is there anyone, where you need the information? She, in some cases, because she doesn't have the right phone number or email,
Yes.
getting close.
Are you contacting the association? For
Yes.
that, the manager?
The manager of the associations.
okay.
The question is, are the associations of all the board members send in their surveys?
Well, that's my
1350 did,
question.
Yeah, 1350 did.
yes.
This is the
Broadway Promenade did, Condo Member did. What else we got here? The Kanaya did, and Sarasota has not yet. The tower is in process. Mark Sarasota has not yet submitted. And Regency House is completed. Savoy completed. Sunset.
100 Central should be.
All is completed. 100 Central is completed, yes.
Okay.
Just coming down there.
Sunset's completed.
Sunset was just submitted. So that's 14 completed and 23 to
Give a
go.
shout out to everyone to get on, I mean, advocate for that, because it's good.
It's gonna be useful information.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're asking for information from individual homeowners or from
No,
the
no,
association?
the association has to do this, but we're saying if your hasn't submitted, talk to your property manager and say, make sure they got the invitation, the link to it, and we send a link to the 73 questions so they can prepare ahead of time. You know, make sure they have all the data they need and calculations, and then sit down and enter the data. It's very valuable information. It's comprehensive. It'll take a few weeks to slice and dice it, come out with a report like we did 2 years ago. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And I think the committee, just for reference, spent a fair amount of time fine tuning the questions to make sure that they were ones that were relevant and could be actionable. So hats off to the committee, and the questions were carefully selected and will be of value to all of those who are completing. Moving on to President's report, I circulated to you a spreadsheet of a kind of a timeline of everything we've got going on. And it's not the intention here, I think, time-wise, to go through everything, but try to lay out the important matters coming before us and the commission in the coming few months. I mean, the density bonus matter. One important thing is the what's the new legislation? Live, work,
Yes.
live, work. Right? There's a
Live local.
live local. There is a special city commission workshop next Monday where there's going to be analysis of the implications of that new state legislation on local governments. And it should be quite interesting and quite important. Leading up to the planning department's current plan is to come forward with their proposed zoning text amendments for a first reading on August 7th. But that's subject to change depending on what comes out of this workshop next Monday. The restaurants, bars, and nightclubs thing is moving forward. Also, I think we had for those of you there, we had about 50 people in attendance from across buildings and things like that, where the city staff got a lot of input on that particular matter. In the community workshops we talked about, and I was pleased to hear Lucia confirm that the city is on board now with doing community workshops for downtown zones where bonus densities are going to be required. The sound ordinance looks like the can is being kicked down the road on that. Dare I say yet again, but that's not, appears to be later this fall, and we'll see where that comes out, but it is being discussed. The parklets and the on-street dining thing, there was a workshop or input session on that. It's moving ahead. That's scheduled to sunset at the end of September. I don't know. I believe I'm told now that there's only about 8 of those. There's not a tremendous number, so it's an issue that needs to be dealt with, but it's not like we've got 50 throughout the city. And the EDCM, this is the right-of-way matter, which is quite important. There's going to be an input session on that July 19th, and I would urge us all to kind of attend that. But again, without going too far into this individually, those are some of the key things coming for us. And we do have a couple community workshops for individual projects that Patrick sent out an email on earlier today.
Yeah, can I just say something a little bit about that? You just sent that out to us, and I think for any one of us that are concerned about getting people involved, the newsletter that was just sent out details all those workshops. Forward them out, get people to sign up and attend, because they're valuable. I mean, you learn a lot, and some of the challenges the city has, and also what we're gonna be looking at. But an informed discussion, I think, is helpful. And to Patrick's point, it is nice to be able to have those details up front, so you come to these community workshops and you know the issues that are involved, so you can have informed discussion. But again, if you could forward those DSCA newsletter flashes out and have people get on board with that, I think that would be great.
Now, let's talk briefly about money. I have sent around that assessed valuations for properties citywide should be in your mailbox any day now, I think. And my understanding is the increase citywide was around 13%. It was estimated as an increase in the neighborhood of 12% a month ago, but the final number is a tad over 13%. That's another big increase whether you're homesteaded or not. It also has implications on how the city budget-wise is going to be thinking about things. My understanding is the city's budget workshops are the 24th and 25th of this month. At this time, there's no real visibility on the proposed budgets, either the capital budgets or not. But it's going to be an interesting discussion. I brought up the idea of 3D modeling. To me, that seems, if there is some discretionary money that is found money, for lack of a better word, even with inflation, that there are going to be some investment opportunities that the city should at least strongly consider. I also shared with you the median price of downtown properties, the other day, and continue to increase. So, and final thing is all the new construction. It just keeps coming. 1,000 under construction downtown now, another 1,000 residential units in the pipeline. It almost seems like a week doesn't go by that there's not another project proposed. So this is a interesting time for resident engagement, as we've got a city in a growth spurt, if you will, and how to best manage that. I think, yeah.
Just add a comment, if I might. Both on what David was saying and Kathy about the community workshops coming up. As an example of the increase in the retail prices of land and units, condo units, you take the one that's coming up on the July 18th, Tuesday, July 18th, is the street vacation. That means the street's not going anywhere on vacation. They're going to give it back to the property owners on both sides of the street. Well, if you actually then look at the notice, it says cross street between Pineapple and Orange is about 0.62 acres. My calculation, that's about 27,000 square feet. So look at what condo prices are going for now. I look online, Redfin and others, $595 a square foot, $636 a square foot. It's around $600 a square foot times 27,000 square feet. That's $16 million for one level. Now, I'm assuming that's 10 stories there. But say you're going to have something ground floor, parking, 2 or 3. Even if you only had 6 out of the 10 levels for sale of residential units at that $600 a square feet, that's $1.1 billion in retail revenue. Now, it might cost them $700 or $800 million to get there, So when the city has a community workshop to look at vacating land, so that is a city street that has been part of the city, and we're gonna give it back to the property owners, that property is retail value of about $1 billion. Now, so where does that come in? And should the city be relooking at that property and saying, gee, maybe we should have a closed street mall, walking mall that's closed all the time. That they can do various projects there all the time. And so attract more businesses. So I think the city, because it's not we no longer have a downtown master plan to guide us, citizen input might have to take a strong role in suggesting to the city how to make better use of our public land that's going to be given away. Again, having access to information, I ask people to go back and somebody else run some numbers and see what it looks like. So, thank you.
Peter, is there a pending community workshop where this issue of buying or vacating public streets like Fifth Avenue Way on either side of, right next to and adjacent to BLVD?
That one hasn't come up yet, but that's another one that will be coming, and there'll be a value priced, so again, there'll be a community workshop for any street vacations. That one, I think, is in the DRC process yet. But you're aware that there's talking Fifth Way being vacated too, so.
Well, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, so it's not on the table yet, but we see it coming, and that's why I'm pointing out is that there needs to be a discussion about when the city just gives up the land, what's the value to the city? We know we can figure out what the value is to the developer.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I've not said it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, interesting times on the budget coming up, and the budget gets adopted the middle of September, so there's only about a 6-week window in there. Kathy, any city updates we haven't talked about?
No, the one thing that kind of hit me at the commission meeting yesterday, 2 days ago, was the park impact fees that are, it's not going to be a clear cut thing. It's not a done deal, so it's not going to be as easy as I think. That was my interpretation, David, you were there.
Can you give some background for the rest of us?
Well, apparently, and correct me again if I'm wrong, the county collects
Right.
for the city as well. And so when the city needs something, they have to go to the county. And is that correct?
Right.
No. Okay, correct me.
The park impact fees are paid by developers for new projects. They're about $1,500 a unit for condos and apartments. They are collected by the city prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued. They are then transferred to the county, which kind of holds them in escrow. And the city, when it has a project that it wants its own money back, so to speak, it asks, and it's a rather convoluted project. The commission voted unanimously on Monday to start the process for dissolving this agreement and therefore having the funds collected by the city, kept by the city, used by. But there are some complications that frankly I don't totally understand in this, but Bob Fournier, the city attorney, was authorized by the commission to proceed with this and try and make it happen, essentially. Yeah, but the funds currently are, the city gets a check and then.
They have to turn it over.
Yeah, and then
Essentially,
it's part of the process. It's just cumbersome and budget cycles, and it's.
David, you keep track. Would you let the group know how much money's in that? The PIF now? Wasn't it something north of $1 million?
Oh, it's way more, it'd be more than that. $4 or $5 million, I would believe.
For the city money that the county's holding.
sorry, it is rather complicated and
Right,
that-
right.
that we are proceeding to undo that.
So, and that was it basically. I mean, we've got some other projects that we're working on.
Okay. On Arts and Cultural Committee, Ken isn't with us. I can tell you on the Van Wezel Blue Ribbon Committee, what was decided at the city commission, that apparently 44 residents have applied for 2 resident seats on the 7-member board. And what was decided on Monday was that each of the 5 commissioners would nominate 2 people. And then the commission, when they meet in the next meeting, will choose from 2 from amongst those 10. So don't shoot the messenger here. I didn't come up with this plan, but that's, each commissioner will nominate 2 folks. And then I don't know how many ballots are gonna go through to get down 2, but that's what's gonna happen. The other thing is, the Public Arts Master Plan has just been published, so to speak. And I believe they're looking for public comments on that. It's to be brought before the commission on August 21st. I don't know, I literally just came in the other day and I haven't looked at much. One of the things that I understand may have some degree of controversy on certain circles is the public art contribution for new development is proposed to go up. And some developers, I believe, are balking at this increase. I frankly don't even recall the amount of the requested increase, but it is being requested.
It's presently 0.5% of the project value.
Okay, so it's going up north of that. I don't know what it is. That's all I've got on that. Associate events, Jamie is not here. We're still planning on our October 19th event is in the works and to be continued for discussion at a later time.
Well, the other thing I want to add to that too is we are looking at doing a members condo representatives workshop meeting to get people on board with getting the word out within your condo. So that's hopefully coming up in November.
Patrick, on green space?
I have nothing to report other than I've gotten no response from the city staff person, Jeff Brendenberg, on both the green building policy and the urban forestry. We were trying to organize to have him come speak to us. So he's listed on the website as having a staff email and phone number, but so keep tracking down.
Okay. Patrick, homeless.
Yeah, Patrick, you give the report on homeless. Anyway, I'll do it for Peter. So we had our last meeting actually, and gathering information about resources for existing programs that provide services for persons without homes. And we had the Salvation Army come in, Mr. Brady, who's the director of transitional housing and information, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And he spent pretty much the whole hour telling us about it. It seemed like 10 minutes to me, anyway. The things that are going on in support of persons without homes that, as connected as so many of us on the committee are, weren't entirely aware of, and in even the remotest sense of how you access these services and what the services are providing. So what we've decided to do is stop collecting as much information, and at the next meeting start to put some of this information together that we can share with you at the various condominium associations. So that's what's scheduled for the next meeting, to get some of this information out. When you look at the New York Times, especially in the Wall Street Journal, few papers that I fight over each morning, mainly for the sports page. But then I get in there and there's always an article on the homeless. When you see what other communities are doing and the amount of money they're spending and getting nowhere near the effort and the progress being made in Sarasota, it's amazing to me that we just are a well-kept secret for a while, at least to the rest of the nation. We are making progress when you compare it to the other communities. It's unbelievable what we're doing. So we need to get that message out. These things are happening. Our problems with persons without homes could be so much greater if it hadn't been for the effort of the last 3 or 4 years of various communities and persons making strides to accommodate the living together of citizens on our streets. So that's what we have.
Okay. Health and safety, the city walk pilot concept. Peter, do you want to, or?
I will unless Kathy wants to, but Kathy and I have been part of.
Yeah, what, tell us.
So without getting too specific on it yet, because the details of it are getting ironed out, but there's a committee of us, the 4 of the board members who are meeting almost on a weekly basis with SPD and working from the top down, trying to come up with a program, doing a pilot program within the downtown for having watchful eyes on the street and helping them in their pursuit of making our community a safer place. So I don't know how much more we want to add to that right now, but it's going to be it's going to be organized and something that we want to roll out when we have all of the dots and T's taken care of in it. I don't know how much more you want to talk about it.
No, essentially this is a program where volunteers, when they're walking their dog or in their normal course of work, possibly wear a t-shirt. So the working name is City Walk, and they are eyes, and if they see something illegal or potentially illegal or troubling, that there's an opportunity to report this in a knowing way.
So let me just add, because a community watch program traditionally is you look out for criminal behavior. Well, we used to have that in Sarasota. I don't think there's any active neighborhood, according to the police department, of a community watch going on now in any coordinated fashion. So Chief Trochet sent word to us, several of us, would DSCA be interested in resurrecting a program for the downtown, being the DSCA neighborhood. When you start to look at the DSCA neighborhood, though, it's a very, very large area. It isn't like 2 blocks of palm trees. So we started looking at that. And from the point of view, can we help the city, help the police department do a better job? And then it came, as we've been meeting, that this just isn't to report criminal behavior. If you're going to do this, and you're going to do it right, and you're going to put trained volunteers, and you're going to have to train volunteers on a trainer or trainer models probably, and go to each condominium and train a couple of people out of each condominium association to grab hold of this thing, you're going to look for other things. Cracks in the sidewalk. We have a click to fix kind of thing. But if you had other people out there looking and seeing a hole in the sidewalk, or cars, 22-foot pickup trucks parking in 17-foot parallel parking spaces sticking out, if you have things that might be going on that you're concerned about, is there a way to report it? So we've been working on doing this. We met with Chief Trochet last week, and several of us. I was impressed how many people he put on this. Captain Armstrong and Morrison and Jamie, and he's devoting some of his resources to help us out with this. We've been very clear, it's on our mind map, if You see, it's the biggest yellow box we have on our mind map. And we're working diligently, and I'm hoping that Kathy and I and David and Jamie, those have been the 4 people trying to liaison, we'd be able to bring something back at the next meeting, which outlines this more specifically, because we haven't gotten board approval to do this yet, because we don't know what the this is, and we want to be very clear on the this, so that we can have board approval and say, okay, the board wants to do this, and we'll go forward with setting up a community watch program.
And the chief is very vested in this. He wants this to succeed, and they're willing to do the training. He's got a program already, a podcast kind of in the queue, waiting for this to just be rolled out. But he wants to make sure, again, that we're very clear on the parameters of it and what we're going to be doing.
And I think we've been reminding softly the chief that he has the budget for the 8 foot patrol folks that was 14, 15 months ago. There are 17 new police people working their way through the academy now. There were 10 a month or so ago. So by the end of the year, the chief has kind of made a soft commitment to having these foot patrol community policing officers on the streets, walking around in downtown in the Rosemary. And we're kind of seeing, is there a way that this program and those new officers on the street can be harmonized in a way that has a good end benefit? So
Would there be a
we're
special
working on it.
number or contact? Say we had.
That'll all be coming to you.
Yeah.
We're looking at possibly using the WhatsApp as a method platform just to report and keep data. But that's all what we've got to work out.
Peter, what's the impetus for all this? We got pickpockets running around?
No,
People's
I
purses,
think
or-
the impetus is, again, getting the community talking to each other and talking to their city officials through the police department in this particular case. The police would like more community contact. They see us as DSCA as being able to provide this kind of liaison. And it wasn't a result of higher street crime. In fact, if you look at the various neighborhoods, very few of them have high street crime. Some of it's very localized in downtown Main Street, like barking dogs might be a thing you want to avoid.
Most of the people in this room are pretty active, and most of us have relationships with various city staff. And we've been doing this for years, and what I get from Trochet and others is, we get thousands of comments for things to fix, the code violations. I'm just echoing what he just said about what is the impetus of this. If they respond that they're overwhelmed anyway with your comments, my comments, their comments, Patrick's comments. I mean, that's how they respond. Hundreds or thousands of comments they're getting.
Right.
So they're asking for the citizens to keep doing their job.
No, not to keep doing their job, but to help them to bring some focus in on us. They're getting 100,000 comments. Are they 99,000 disparate comments and 1,000 that can categorize around real issues? Because 99,000 maybe, I don't like the way my neighbor is picking up his mail kind of comment to my neighbor seems to be carrying a concealed weapon and I'm very concerned about it. Is there anything I can do? So those kinds of comments. I think they're just looking for some help to mitigate some of the concerns that they hear in the 100,000 comments. It's not a 100,000 comment problem. It's a much smaller problem than that. Can we bring some focus to that and how we handle it and just collecting the data and pursuing it? We don't expect anybody to be arresting anybody. We don't expect anybody to be putting themselves in danger of any sort. It's just another set of data to improve the quality of life downtown.
Linda?
Thanks. I have two comments or questions. I'm very interested in this, as Jim was alluding to. I and other people public safety oriented and spend probably most of my time on public safety issues. So trying to also understand what is really at the core of this. Because I'm kind of hearing two different things. One is more about improving relations and understanding within the community about public safety, what those public safety concerns are, figuring out what the 100,000 drill down to actually be. Are there really 3 main issues? What are they, et cetera? Which is completely different exercise and mission than people walking around doing whatever. And then there's all these issues, of course, about what their authority is and isn't. I know that would be clearer with training, but I would be interested in, I think that's a really important part. And then I have a completely separate question.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of it has to do with, they're getting these little phone calls, and sometimes they're not, because people stop calling when they don't feel like anything's being done.
Right.
You know, that's what's rule. So he brought up the alley situation, let's say, it's behind Main Street, there's the alley there. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there in the evening that needs to be, we need to have more watchful eyes down there, but they can't be everywhere, and they want the phone calls to say, there's something, there's stacked parking back there, or, you know, we've got an incident going on in these little nooks and crannies that they don't necessarily see. And I think the other piece to this, it's not just the citizens we want to bring in on this, it's the business owners who tracking panhandling, harassing people at their table, that sort of thing. So they need to know about those things, because quite frankly, they say by the time, you know, if they know us, they see us, it's done.
Right.
Whereas you approach in this way, and we have a WhatsApp, or we have a different way to communicate, it's a more subtle thing, so they can get better data.
Okay, so to be continued, and Linda, we'd love to involve you in the committee's
Thanks,
work.
and I have a
Okay,
another
and
question
because we're
related to this program, but,
time issues,
okay,
but,
but
okay,
to the safety.
okay.
My question is, and just for to David or anybody else who has information, as whether or not other condominium buildings have their own safety and security committees or safety and security manuals or protocols. Marina Tower, our building formed a safety and security committee in January, our board set it up. I'm on the committee, surprise.
It's part of the survey.
It's part of the survey, okay, because I think that's a great way we can help each other out.
Okay, all right, sorry, we're gonna have to move on, folks. Peter, good for now? Okay, thank you. Transportation, Roger?
Okay, well, the good news, the contract for the construction of the roundabout at Gulfstream has been completed. The only work left to be done is landscaping, which the city is involved, and that starts late July and August. And so that will finish it up. My personal comment has been a significantly efficient improvement. I watched traffic every cocktail hour on Gulfstream, and the reduction of the lines even in season have been significant. They got some really good data on that. The only comment I would make, we recently heard a comedian talk about roundabouts, and his point was that the word yield doesn't mean surrender. And if you, for some reason, stop while you're in the middle of the roundabout, you should go home, put your keys down, and never drive again. And if there's a gap, you should go for it like an NFL linebacker. So that's how you do it. No, I'm afraid not. But I was thinking about adopting it. Okay, some bad news, of course. Boulevard of the Arts and 10th Street federal grant applications were turned down. And the only comment I would make is that we didn't have the matching politics to get it approved. Not that that's not the criteria, but anyway. And so David is on the search for where he can get the money from someplace else.
Don't talk to the governor.
Don't talk to the governor.
Okay,
Oh, by the way, excuse me, Roger, on Jesse Bider's Facebook page is a video clip of accident at the Gulfstream roundabout. That somebody coming north on 41 just thought, oh, I can keep going.
Yeah.
And didn't bother to yield to the car in the roundabout.
Going into the Gulf Stream?
No, it wasn't even that far, it was right there. Anyway,
No.
there's.
Okay. On zoning code, I think we covered that, the community workshops, et cetera. Bob, on the Bay Park,
Bay
anything?
Park, I sent you all the update from the CEO of the Bay Park, and I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. CCNA, I really don't have anything. Richard Harris and I are in frequent contact, but, and then on the Rosemary Park, there's really no news.
Is Richard Harris the new president? Is Richard Harris the president now at CCNA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and he may be on the call. And I think with that, Panica, do we have some folks with us?
We have a couple of guests.
Okay.
So, I'm with Berg Simpson and we do construction defect. Anya Party is one of the attorneys and she's gonna mention anything new.
Hi, everyone. How are you guys
Hi,
doing?
hi.
So we kind of have to stay in our lane here and discuss things that pertain to what we do, which is construction defect litigation in the Tampa and Sarasota area. Thankfully, the government is keeping us busy here in the state of Florida with new laws that are coming out on almost a monthly basis. The most recent law pertains to licensing for contractors, and while that might not seem to directly relate to you, it does in a way, because if you're a board member or a property manager and you need to reach out and find a contractor to fix one thing or another that has to do with a common property, something that you should be aware of is a law that was, it was actually House Bill 735 that came out in 2021. There were a lot of issues with it. It had to do with local licensing requirements and whether or not they were preempted by the state of Florida. So local licensing requirements have been around for like 100 years. And basically there was a House bill that came out back in 2021 that said we're going to get rid of local licensing requirements in the state of Florida. And it was written very poorly. And so there was some ambiguity there that had to be worked out. And just on July 1st, the state said, yes, we're going forward with this law. Local licensing requirements are going to be going away by July 1st of 2024. So what does that mean to you? Well, it does mean that we still have state requirements for large scopes of work, like roofers, electricians, HVAC, contractors, things like that. However, if you're looking to do smaller scopes of work like pavers or driveways at your association or painting, they no longer need to be licensed to do work. And where Sarasota County or Lee County or Charlotte County had certain standards that might require a painter to at least have been in business for 3 years or have taken a certain amount of classes or had passed certain tests in order to get their license, those are going away.
What about insurance?
So you would really have to do your background research now because the licensing and the insurance is no longer linked to a county. So just be on guard. Yes.
Yeah, how about services like ServPro, where a hurricane comes in to Florida and they bring in franchisees from out of state?
That's actually going to be a real problem. We kind of have to see how it's going to play out with the new licensing requirements. And you would think that the reverse would be true because of everything that's been going on with hurricanes and out-of-state contractors coming in. You would think that Florida would be doubling down on unlicensed contracting, but it seems to be going in the opposite direction.
I mean, they may be licensed, but they're licensed in Texas. Something
Right,
like that.
right. So if you're touching certain scopes of work, you're still going to need a license, like if you're doing roofing, which is most commonly what you have with hurricanes.
Sure.
However, if your pavers are pulled up, it's really anything goes situation. So just rely, on your common sense, do your background investigation, and really other property managers and other boards are your best point of contact for knowing who is local and who does good work, but just be aware of the new changes.
So there are no state regulations that are gonna come in and take over for the local regulations on
They haven't-
contractors? Is that
They
what-
haven't adjusted the regulations other than adding some specialty licenses that are voluntary, but they're not required.
Great.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. We'll introduce our gold members. We have Dennis Sweeney here, if you want to say something.
Sure. Hey guys, Dennis McSweeney, Smart Water Protection. I was here last month. We started the company specifically to help protect the properties and the residents from something most people sweep aside, and that is the non-weather related water damage issue. Hurricane's a great trigger. Everyone knows it. They plan for it, they prepare for it in an attempt to keep the damage costs down. As far as non-weather, the plumbing and the appliances, HOPE apparently is the strategy, and there's over 30 water restoration companies locally. For a quick search, I was up to 38 and I stopped. So obviously it's a huge issue, and historically people have the event. They call people to cut the drywall, ruin their lives, you know, it gets very expensive, the insurance companies get upset. We got started to get ahead of the problem and come from risk management. So we go in, we do an assessment of the property, see whether or not we're a good fit, and we put in products that will limit the amount of a leak to keep it just a leak and not become a flood. So it's just something to have a conversation about and get ahead of. I mean, hurricanes, yeah, it's an unlikely event, but it's a big one. Water leaks, it's a very likely event, and it can be very big. But thanks, and if you have any questions, love to come talk.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. And I think I saw Steve Shaw with Hot Wires Communications.
Thanks, Panica. I was here last month and let all of you know that construction has begun on our new fiber trunk. It's going to run from Bradenton down the trail and eventually out to Longboat Key. Very excited about it and being able to service television and internet services through fiber optics for condo and HOA associations in the downtown area and Longboat Key. But I guess what I'm really excited about is that Jamie called us and gave us an opportunity to upgrade our sponsorship of DSCA from gold to platinum. And so we will be becoming a platinum sponsor very soon, and we value the partnership and we appreciate the opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Great.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it? Okay.
That's all my list, yeah.
Let's see, our next meeting will be same place, August 2nd. Are there any final comments? We're a little late. Any final comments from member reps? Jim?
Thank you for the flash report. I think it's a quick, easy way to disseminate for anyone who might be interested, who might not read the paper and noodle through it, or the website for the city, know where all these planning workshops are. Thank you for that.
No, that's, it just was issued a few hours ago, so it's right in your
This
inbox.
is, it'll give you a schedule of all the things that are.
I was just gonna ask you about that,
Okay.
where to get it.
Yeah, this was emailed out here. Unfortunately, it only had attached the PDF of the notice. As I commented to her, trying to put together, well, what is this about, and a link to the actual background document. Didn't have time to put that together.
Yeah, and Patrick gets the credit for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And with that, we are adjourned and some time for some hot potato chips or.
We're looking forward to it.
Whatever. Okay. That's wine.